what's going on, everybody?
Hey,
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You tuned in to Smoke Dog TV. We got a special guest today by the name of Miss Terri Leek. How you doing, Miss Terri?
I'm excited to be here and talk with you guys about my one of my favorite subjects.
For sure. How's
Yeah.
everything going in your life?
Surprisingly, I think I turned 67 in about a month, and I never thought I'd be at this place in my life doing what I'm doing now at 67. So I'd say I'm really fortunate. I love getting up every morning and educating, talking about cannabis, which I think has had a really bad rap and been pushed in a corner for way too long. Um, Getting to help people understand a plant that I love, and I love service to people. So I feel like at my age, I'm extremely lucky.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what was life like growing up as a kid?
Well, I grew up here in Oklahoma. I grew up in McLeod, Oklahoma, and Shawnee, Oklahoma. I taught school there for about right around 20 years. I was a basketball player. I loved sports. I loved my grandparents' farm. I loved football. I was just kind of a country girl, pretty naive about many, many, many things. Well, honestly, about too many things. So my eyes have been opened, over time, and uh, yeah, I think it was a pretty sheltered time. I was born in 1957, so growing up, I graduated high school in 75. So I, was part of the civil rights. I was part of the women's rights, Roe versus Wade, um, with, all of it. So the Vietnam War. So, the time before there was computers and technology. And then here I am having to use it again. And so, and I remember the first calculator I bought was like $400. And I think that same calculator you buy at Dollar Tree now for $1 or something, So I've seen a lot of change.
Damn, times done changed.
Yeah, pretty fast.
So, what did your parents do for a living, if you don't mind me asking?
My dad was one of the first computer programmers in the world. He started doing that in I think it was 1959. He was retired Navy, but then worked for the military. That's who really started the internet. And so he, in the computer, that whole business. So he did that. My mom was a stay-home mom until I was like a sophomore in high school, and she went to college. She thought she was dumb. She ended up making straight A's all the way through college because she was so afraid of failing something. She's now 90 years old and lives in McLeod. Um, but I think that was an innocent time, and yet not innocent, right? A lot of things were being revealed. That really, growing up on a farm and there wasn't much media, so you really didn't know things of the world. And now I think, the good part about cell phones, the good part about media is that we're more in touch with each other. But, that comes with a lot of baggage too about, disconnection and uh, disconnection from people, maybe more connection media wise, but disconnection with people. So it just seems like I've seen a whole lot of things evolved. I had my horse in my backyard growing up. My world centered around a basketball. And I started smoking pot when I was 15. I smoked it with a few friends, um, and kind of liked where my head went when I did it. And I didn't know then what I know now, and that is that it probably was helping me with some stress and some anxiety and things like that. I did smoke it in college, and then when I started teaching and coaching, I just smoked by myself. Like I didn't let anyone know that I smoked pot because obviously you'd lose your job um, real fast. So I didn't party. I when I smoked, it was usually like I taught high school chemistry and human physiology. So I'd set up labs, get to school early, and do all of this. And so at night, then I'm coaching basketball. You wait till all the kids get picked up. So I'd get home about midnight, and you were fired up. You were wired up from the basketball game. So I would smoke some pot just to relax. And I'm glad that I didn't use alcohol. I'm glad it was pot. And I'm glad I didn't get caught because back then my life would have changed dramatically, which is ridiculous. Um, but because it's such a kind way to relax, right at the end of the day, um, it's not hard on you. In fact, there's a lot of benefits from it. But back then, I didn't know that back then. I just knew that I leaned into it for whatever reason. I didn't really know the medical parts. And then fast forward to 2009, I think, is
Right.
when they legalized it in Colorado. We had just moved there a few years earlier, and I was super excited. I mean, I didn't even think legalizing marijuana would happen in my lifetime. And so I got a card and I went to a dispensary and they had lotion. And I needed a knee replacement desperately. And I thought, man, I'll try anything. And I used it. And it was like the first time I'd had relief in my knee. And that's when I started looking into the medical benefits. And back then, like that lotion was real expensive. That was when we were first, you know, uh, able to buy things from a dispensary. So things were expensive, and I knew I couldn't afford it. So then I started growing my own plants. I got on YouTube and figured out how to extract oil from them, and then so I was growing plants, and then learned to extract the oil. And my husband is a West Point graduate, Army Ranger. He played football for West Point, but he's like super straight. The man's never even had a drink. So now I'm growing plants, extracting oil, and then making salves and tinctures. And was just doing it for myself, for my family, for my friends who needed those things. And then I kind of became famous. I had a little red Honda Element, and when people would see it, they'd say, "Are you the lotion lady?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I started just carrying around boxes of salve. That was what I was making with it the most. Um, and then my husband started coaching football there, and then the whole football team was using my salve when it was made out of CBD. When I first started, it was a THC because that's what I had, right? CBD wasn't even in the picture in those days. And then, of course, all the laws changed. This was
Right.
early, and you could grow like I could grow 99 plants um, legally, and then when the laws changed, they changed that day. So it was, I mean, just like how Oklahoma's going through those growing spells, right? All the industries have done that. And it's because it's a new industry, it's an emergent industry. So nobody really knows how to handle it. And I think that's when you asked me to be on this call, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm an educator. I want people to understand. Like right now, I work with people with stage 4 cancer. I have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 69-year-old, a 49-year-old. I've had many other patients as well. Gosh, a couple of 50-year-olds right now. But the age is getting younger and younger, and I think preservatives, the way we've, um, you know, there's so many pesticides and herbicides and whatever in our food, in our rain, in our water. All water's contaminated, right? It just is. I think Roundup is the number one culprit. If you Google that, like it's astonishing to see. And I remember I was married to a guy who sold agricultural chemicals, and I remember when Roundup came out because that's how old I am. And I remember how excited I was, and I sprayed that stuff all over my yard. And now we know that, in a raindrop, like a fresh raindrop falling from the skies, contains 75% more Roundup than is healthy for us. So there's a lot of Roundup out there. And, just because, it's really funny how hard we come down on regulation around marijuana. Like, to me, it's still ridiculous that we go to a dispensary and we need these medical things when we can go pick up alcohol anywhere, anytime. And I don't know about you, but I've done a lot more crazy things drinking than I ever have from smoking or taking an edible. And not only that, I've seen miracles. Like,
Oh,
I've seen
hell yeah,
miracles.
for sure.
I, I mean, I remember losing my clothes, my car, and I don't know what else, drinking tequila. And I've never done that. I mean, if you have too much pot, usually you just go to sleep. And I mean, too many edibles, for sure, that's a bad thing because people can hallucinate.
Right,
Like,
for real.
it can be bad. And, I always try to tell everyone this is another reason for education. The antidote for too much THC is CBD. So, I had my last child when I was 45, and I told my son, because I know his world. He's 22 now in college in Bozeman, and beautiful Bozeman, Montana. And I'm just like, always have CBD because you never know. You're going to, especially living in Colorado, especially living in states when people don't know what they're doing. And really, honestly, especially in Oklahoma, where you can get 1,000 milligram gummy. You can't even do that in Colorado. Like, we have some pretty large doses here
Right.
available for consumption. Some people aren't ready for that. And then, I think that hurts all of us, right? When they first legalized in Colorado, and the first time somebody did too much edibles, and then that's what's on TV, and that's what kids get into, and it's like, you got to be responsible for this stuff. Know what you're taking, know what your limits are. You don't start off at 100 milligrams. And um, I've talked to people who take 800 milligrams. Like, they have chronic pain. They've been in chronic pain. Hey, still better than Percocet. That may be a lot of milligrams, but that's still so much better. I'm getting ready to get some work done on my back, and when I went to the doctor and they said, "What are you using for pain?" and I said, "THC," and they said, "Oh, great, we love to hear that. So much better than anything else you could do." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a big ortho group," and they just said for the
Right. It's
last
getting a lot of
5
people off of pills
THC.
too.
Well, yes, and those pills. I mean, I mean there's so many things, like, those things are bad, but then when you find out that they're heroin based, like,
So
uh,
many side effects. Yeah.
oh, the rate of addiction,
They're trying
like,
to
you
get
can.
lifetime customers, what they're trying to do.
Oh, you got that is exactly right. And then not only is it that condition you need something for, you're going to need it for what it does to your liver, what it does to your kidneys, and what it does to your mind, and then you're not as productive. I mean,
Right.
we've all been there.
Right.
Everybody's got an experience with Percocet, whether it's you personally or someone that immediately away. It's kind of like fentanyl, how we don't talk about fentanyl, and everybody, because it's like the people who have the power feel like people who are overdosing on fentanyl are druggies. They're not druggies. They're people who are probably buying Percocet illegally on the market because you can't get them anymore. And they're just regular people who are in pain. Or a kid. I heard a story about a kid who was an athlete, never had done anything. And one of his buddies gave him a Percocet, too much fentanyl in it. There was a party in Muskogee. I can't tell you much about it, but major overdoses on fentanyl. And these were all great people. Our society is one who uses drugs recreationally. Most people don't want to talk about it. Most people don't want to say it, but it's the truth. We all know it. When I go to a party now, I'm not a drinker. When people are having a glass of wine, I step outside and hit my joint. And I have just as giggly, have just as much fun. But that's just not alcohol doesn't like, my body doesn't like alcohol. So I know if I drink alcohol, I'm going to suffer. It's not a matter of a little hangover. It's 3 days of feeling like I got the flu. So I could just lean into my joint. And,
Yeah,
the
they
thing,
say different strokes for different folks. Some
that's
like
right.
liquor, some like smoke.
That's and some like edibles, and some like for me, it's I like flower. I love infused flower right now. I that's one of my go-tos because I just like a couple puffs of something just to help me take the edge off. I find myself my one son had never smoked before. He came in from Taiwan this summer, and he was like, "Man, I can see why you love this, Mom." He said, "You just smoke it. You want to get shit done." And I'm like, with that one you do, and then the one I smoke right before I go to bed, that one a little bit just knocks you out, and I sleep great. And people my age have a lot of trouble sleeping. I don't have any trouble sleeping. So, and but like I said, um, I've seen so many miracles in my own family, in my own self, on my husband's football team with concussions. He started giving 5,000 milligram tincture, CBD tincture, so really strong, full spectrum tincture to his football players who were possible concussion. And what I had read was to get it in them the first 30 minutes after the concussion because it's such a strong anti-inflammatory, right? And it's also a neuroprotectant. I mean, that's why the NFL, that's why everybody's looking into this. That's why the World Health Organization signed off on it. That's why the Olympics are allowing athletes to use it now, is because, you know, and trust me, my husband's my greatest critic. My husband has never had a drink. He's straight and narrow. So when my husband would give his players, and really he gave it to their parents. He always tell the parent, what it was all about and everything. But they were a big school. They didn't lose kids to concussion. And our son had a bad concussion and was at Children's for 18 months when he was a sophomore. And so we're very conscious, concussion conscious, because that ravages the brain. You don't know if you're going to be the same after a severe concussion. And these people who get lots and lots of hits in the head, they should be taking CBD preemptively, just to keep that inflammation away. And it's a neuroprotectant. The studies are out there. I
Right.
love
That's
this.
why they're trying
Yes,
to raise awareness on CTE and all that type of stuff.
that's right. And I believe the answer is going to be in the cannabinoids. Just for me, opening up my eyes from when I first started messing with the stuff, and I was growing my plants, so I was growing THC. And then you start finding out about all the terpenes, and then you find out about all the different types of the strains that are out
Well, not
there.
to cut you out, but isn't it wild that they can only diagnose this stuff and find out about it after a person dies?
Yeah, it is wild. It is wild. It is, in fact, it's infuriating because what I've seen it do with cancer. And, I got lucky enough to get to work with MD Anderson a little bit. And, they had to have isolated CBD. Like, they can't work with the full molecule, right? They can't, the full host of molecules. They can't work with the THC and the Rick Simpson oil and all that because most of those hospitals are federally funded. So, but to see that the results went drastically up, the success went drastically up when just so happened that that one sample I got happened to have that strain that I got it from had a lot of CBC. And then CBC, you dive in when the clinicals go up, you dive in to say, well, look at your certificate of analysis and say, what on here made that so special? And it was the CBC. And so then you research CBC, and yeah, the Israelis already know all this stuff. It's already been researched over there. It's just, we're way behind here. So then you see that, yeah, CBC is a tumor shrinker. And so then back then, though, you were just trying to find a batch of oil that was high in CBC. Well, now I can buy it isolated. I can buy a whole kilo of it. I can buy a whole kilo of CBN. When I first started making sleep gels with CBN was $300,000 a kilo. So obviously, I didn't buy by the kilo, but I saw the
So are
importance
you
of it.
telling us you the godmother of this? You the
I'm telling
godmother of
you,
this shit.
I'm telling you, I don't know what I am, but I love it. I love this plant. I love the natural medicine. I when I first opened, so I'm still in this lotion out of the back of my car, and then it got where like I couldn't keep up with it. My whole kitchen, and I love to cook, so I needed my kitchen. It couldn't just be lotion all the time. So I thought, well, I'll open a little mom and pop shop. And so I did that in Conifer, Colorado. And then I was just going to make my lotion and then buy, my vape pens then and my tinctures and whatever from other companies. And then figured out quickly that back in those days, that was when it was first starting, there was no integrity in products. Like you couldn't count on anything to be what it said it was going to be. You'd buy them, you'd get them there, you'd get it tested, and then you were disappointed, or you'd open up the mechanics of the vape pen and go, oh yeah, nobody should be sucking on this. This is cheap shit from China. Sure enough, no one should have been sucking on it. So I started manufacturing lots of different products and ended up building that little business into something that I was able to sell for quite a bit of money before I left Colorado and moved back home here in 2020.
Pause. Pause. Did you just say sucking on it? You said sucking on it, Miss Terry?
I don't
Hold
know.
on now. This this
Okay.
this is a rated G program. No, I'm bullshitting. I'm just joking.
Yeah, so I got that business sold and then came back to Oklahoma and thought I was just going to retire. We have a place here on the lake, and um, I kept watching, seeing what was going on in the industry here, and it's so much like Colorado was when it started there. And and I taught here for a long time, so I had some connections and some people. So then I didn't really want to be the CEO of a company again. That was tons of work, and I loved it and I hated it all at the same time. It was exciting to build a company. I was picked in Colorado as like one of the top 100 people to know in this business, and it certainly stroked my ego and fed me in that way. But I just didn't want to, when you're making products and selling them, you have to fight to say this will help with pain. You can't say that. You have to say this will comfort you, right? You can't make claims about it. And so I just thought, I'll just make stuff for my family and my friends and me, because personally, I'm going to make this the rest of my life. Because I mean, if whatever happens, I'm going to have plenty of CBG, CBN, CBD, and all those cannabinoids, because I have kilos of them, and I my hair is starting to get thin because I'm older and I've had thyroid cancer. So now I'm working on something for hair growth, and it's
Did you
just
say you can
always
have
fascinating.
99 plants
Oh,
and
I
you
don't.
got
I now.
kilos of it? You the king pin. You the queen pin of the
Well, I don't
CBD and
have
the
99
CNC.
plants anymore. In Oklahoma, I don't have any plants. I mean, I grow my six every summer out, outside, but I don't. I don't grow here. I buy the oil already. I buy the isolated, and then as far as like smoke, so I started a product here with the Queens of Cannabis, and they make pre rolls and stuff like that. And then another guy who really like came up, like we have this beautiful box. So we ended up with a passion box is what I have now. So in the Oklahoma
So
market,
that's the name of your company, or that's who you
it's
partnered
the
up with?
Savage
Let
Passion
the people
box.
know the name of your
It's
company and the
Savage.
product that you're promoting, and I
Here
plug
it
it
is.
in real quick.
Okay, Savage Passion Box. Let's see if I can get it in there. So it's a passion box. It's meant to
And how can they
increase.
find that? Like drop your social media names
Yeah,
and
if
stuff
they
like
go
that.
to ilovepassionbox.com, it's got like 5 products in it. It's got a pre-roll, bonbons, but this is the candle. So the candle, so right, knowing that CBD is antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, I was like, what a great product for sex, right? Because women get bladder infections, yeast infections, inflammation, so the fun nights a lot of times end up having like some kind of discomfort for women. Most of the products, when you go look at Christie's or whatever, a lot of them have too much. They have sugar. Sugars feed bacteria. Sugar feeds yeast infections. So these not only are lubricants that can be kind of like a massage oil. It's a candle that this is like a candle that you fire it up, right? And then it has a pour spout, so you can, when it liquefies, and this is made from butters,
So
from
is it
mango.
like an aphrodisiac or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's got aphrodisiacs in it, and it can be like you do the back rub or whatever, and then it's also a lubricant. So most lubricants are so wet and so moist. There's so much of it that it takes away from the sexual experience. This actually enhances the sexual experience. But I think more than that, like the candle, you're setting an intention. Like when you buy the box, and the box is like $69. We worked hard to keep the price there because we wanted it, everything about it to be sexy. We have
I
some
was
TikTok
just gonna
videos.
ask you how much it costs.
69
You read my
retail,
mind.
69 retail out the door, $69. And it has a black pre-roll. It's the only black pre-roll in Oklahoma, and it's super sexy. I'll just show it to you. I'm not really trying to sell the box. I just want to show it to you because I'm super proud of it. But sexy pre-roll. And then it has
Oh
a
no,
little,
we really trying to sell the box.
okay. Oh, well, thank you. And then this is a
We really
lip
trying to sell the
plumper.
box.
Well,
Don't downplay it. We
thank
really
you.
trying to sell the box.
Okay, well then I'll tell you because everything in here is meaningful. So this was a lip plumper, and again, getting older, my lips thin out, and women all are using lip plumpers. So I was going to go buy a lip plumper, and it was like $50, and I thought I have a lab. I'm not going to spend $50 on a lip plumper. So I made this one, and I put aphrodisiacs in it. So you put on the lip plumper, and then this plumps your lips, and it plumps anything else. It's a plumper. It'll plump, right? So I got lots of
It's a
feedback on
plumper.
it. It's a plumper.
Well,
So
I
it's
used to be
gonna.
a plumber. I used to lay a lot of pipe. I retired now
Well,
though.
lucky you, right? I mean, so it's a plumper. So it's gonna make lips plump. It will make any kind of erectile tissue. It's gonna make it plump, whether it's his or hers. So so we put it in the box,
Make
but
it plump and make that cat jump like a
that's
Puma logo.
You got it. You got it. And now then, like I told you how straight my husband is, but I can tell you, we can be in the car and I could just pull this lip plumper out. As soon as he smells that smell, he's like, "What are you doing over there?" And I'm like, "Yeah." You know what? That's what I love about this is it helps you with sexual cues. Because even my husband, we've been together 30 years. And really, this was like after 30 years, like we needed a
So
lip
how'd you
plumper.
meet your husband?
Oh, say that again. You cut out.
I said, how did you meet your husband?
Oh, that's a
How'd
crazy
you
ass
meet your
story.
husband?
That's a story for another time because it is so crazy you wouldn't even believe it. But I'll just say this: he's 10 years younger than me, and the first time we met,
I
we were
mean,
in.
did y'all meet at a Popeye's chicken, a drive-through?
We met in a club in Hawaii where he was trying to scoop me off the dance floor and have sex with
Oh,
me,
you
and I
be
was just like,
clubbing.
"Oh yeah, this is back in the '80s in Hawaii. Yeah, we were clubbing for sure." Uh, so he was just
I
graduated from
like you,
West
Miss
Point.
Terry. You cool than a fan.
Well, you know what I have figured out is just be honest and be yourself. And I'm teaching I'm having women's groups at my house now. We've had several. We were going to do it once every quarter. We're doing it once every month. And I just feel like the way I want to go out, like at my age, right? I'm not thinking about my kids anymore or building my life. Now I'm thinking about how do I want to exit this planet? What do I want my legacy to be? And I want it to be that I was real, that I was honest, that I was open, that I was vulnerable, and that I was kind.
That's deep right there. That's deep. I agree with you with that 100%.
Yeah. And you know what? It feels
Hey, we
so
got a
good.
couple of questions to ask you before you get off.
Okay.
Thi- thi- I understand. We got a couple of questions. It's kind of like you don't got to think too hard on it. Kind of like
hmm
you know.
Yeah.
It's a couple of
Ask me
questions.
anything.
I'm gonna start it out. All right. The first question is tell us something we don't know about you. Or keep it
Oh,
quick.
something you don't know about me is I'm a survivor of a lot of things, and I'm happy for every lesson I've ever learned.
Okay. Childhood crush.
Oh, wow, a crush. Well, you're going to think I'm crazy. You're not even going to know who I'm talking about because this goes way back to New York Knicks basketball, and I had a crush on Walt Frazier.
Somebody will. Somebody will know who you talking about.
Oh, listen, he's old school, but if you Earl the Pearl and him were, around this, Wilt Chamberlain, all those guys were playing then, but Walt was smooth, and he was. I just loved him. I loved him. I gave every book report I had to give. I gave it on Walt Frazier because I was madly in love with him. And him and Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson. He had
He
a
was
TV show back
funny.
in the day, right?
Yeah, he actually controlled Hollywood there for a while. And what I loved about Johnny
Yeah.
Carson was he'd have, the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis Jr., and Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, all those guys on. And then he'd have like some old lady that he just liked her because she was funny as hell. And he just, every night my parents watched it. And it's kind of what I remember listening to in my bedroom when I went to sleep. And he was funny. And I think I love laughing. Laughing's the fountain of youth.
Secret talent.
Well, let's see. My secret talent. I don't have many secrets. That's the bad thing. Uh, let's see. My secret talent. I guess I feel like I'm a child whisperer. When I was teaching school, I could take the kids who had a hard time and I could figure out how to turn their brain on the way they needed it. And then they would not need, they think they needed me for their life and then they didn't need me anymore because they had found their gift. And I think that's what God gave me.
Right. Person you trade places with for one day.
Hmm. For one day, I think I would like to be. I think I'd like to be. I guess a president can't get anything done in one day, but I would love to be able to affect change on a political stage. But I don't see that really happening. So that's truly a dream. But if a president would be, but I guess, I mean, maybe I'd like to be. Um, Maybe between Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Rihanna, or Pink doing a concert in front of millions of people up on a trapeze, like just how they're like crazy, amazing women. Uh, that'd be kind of cool. But I'd have to be them. It couldn't be me. But if I could be them for a day, that'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind being Snoop Dogg either. I kind of
For
like him
sure.
a lot too. Him and Martha. I mean, yeah, I kind of like all that. I like how he coaches kids, how he's brought a lot of awareness around marijuana, how he's still cool, but still gangster. I feel like he's tried to stay true to himself. I like that about him. So I think he probably has a real interesting life. I wouldn't mind seeing this industry through his eyes one day either.
What's the weirdest job you ever had? The worst job you ever had?
The worst job? Well, I would say for a while in Colorado, I did Kids Day Out. Um, and in Colorado, to go outside, kids have to have snow boots and mittens. And like herding little 3 and 4 year olds are like herding cats anyway. And they wouldn't know which gloves were theirs, they wouldn't know which boots were theirs. And about the time you get them all ready to go out, recess was over, or you'd go outside and kids had frozen hands, and that was kind of the worst in that respect. The only other thing, oh, and they would be naked, and sometimes, like one time a little kid went to the bathroom and I went in to get him because it was time to get on the bus, and he was naked crawling around on the top of the toilet. And yeah, little bitty kids. I'm better with teenagers. Little bitty kids are a challenge, I think. Yeah.
What's the biggest risk you ever took?
Oh, the biggest risk I ever took. Well, there's a lot that I probably shouldn't talk about. Um, the biggest risk. Um, there's the ones you do financially, the ones that could put you in jail, which, I mean, when the laws were changing in Colorado, and especially when I had an indoor grow, and, you just put all this HVAC system in, and then all of a sudden the laws changed. I did some stuff then that was pretty risky that scared the shit out of me because I am a pretty, like, I grew up on a farm and then as a little schoolgirl. But you make those decisions and you get in debt and you got to do what you got to do because you got a family. But I would say maybe the biggest risk is,
Allegedly, everything is allegedly. This all for entertainment purposes only, guys.
yeah, allegedly, and that was long, long, long time ago. I would say the biggest risk I've taken is, or I'll tell you the most uncomfortable, and that's just being willing to be vulnerable. Like even with you, and even with my husband, being vulnerable to me is like one of the bravest things I ever do. Like being able to talk about sexual trauma, whatever it is with people, like in the women's group I do, just being as authentic as possible, which means you expose things that you've worked for years to keep buried, to keep covered down. But you also know that when you exact those up and talk about it, you lose that shame, and that makes it worth it. So probably the scariest thing I have ever had to do is around vulnerability. But I will say the cannabis industry, even having CBD products, because when I first started with my products there, you weren't allowed to say CBD on the product. You had to say hemp enriched cannabinoid product because uh, some
I
pharmaceutical
remember
company,
that.
yeah, they said that they owned the right to say CBD. No one else owned that right, and you're like, it's an abbreviation for a molecule. Like, how do you own that? But at the time, like nobody wanted to carry your product if you had it on there, and then you had to like being careful with medical claims, and like that was all really risky and really crazy, and like for no reason. It was cannabinoids. Like all they can do is you take them and they help you. They don't make you high. They don't make you anything. So that was, and taking other people's money, taking investment money, and building a company, and you're a school teacher and you don't really like have CEO type skills. As a formulator, just because I was a good, like I had chemistry and human physiology background. So that helped me be a formulator and a researcher. Then when I started my company, I did hire a Merck certified chemist, learned tons of stuff from him, and then just tons of stuff from a lot of people, but everything was anecdotal. There's like trying to find resources, which anyone out there who needs a resource, I suggest you go to pubmed.com. It's short for public medical. And you can type in THC, CBD, RSO, whatever, and whatever element, and it will pull up white paper studies. And the studies are kind of hard to read and understand, but there'll be a summary or an abstract that gives you, breaks it down to the details. It makes it easy to understand. But that's where I get a lot of my information. You know, um, it's just like frankincense. Frankincense is something that I end up putting in almost all my tinctures. It works really well with cannabinoids. And there's a lot of things that work hand in hand with cannabinoids. But PubMed can kind of tell you all of that. So people out there are playing around with their own stuff because now then you can buy those isolated molecules yourself. And I mean, I use them for my dogs. I use them for my mother that's 90. The guy at who takes in charge of her rest home uses them all. Um, like everybody should have cannabinoids in their closet because they're great for sunburn. It's great for inflammation. It's great for an infection. And, if we do this again, I'll try to get some pictures of people. I've got pictures of brain tumors that shrunk 90% in 3 months, MRIs from a lady. I've got wound care is crazy. What it'll do with a wound is insane. And I want to share that with you because I want to share it with everybody. I want people to see it. Crazy wounds, you can't believe what these, because our skin has receptors
I
for them.
already know. Hey, we'll talk offline and off the record about some things, but I know about that wound care stuff. The next question is gonna be not to cut you off, but the next question is gonna be something you always thought was true but wasn't.
Oh, I always thought that the truth was for me to that I should be a good little girl. That was what the goal was, and that's not true. The truth, what I need to be is an honest little girl. Yeah, that wasn't true. There's a lot of things that weren't true. I used to think the United States were always the good guys. We're not always the good guys. Sometimes we're the bad guys. Um, yeah, there's a lot of things.
Who would
A
you like
lot
to
of
be
stuff.
stranded on the island with?
Probably my husband. He's he saves me every day. He's my hero, and he's an asshole, and he's also a hero. And I don't know anybody else I'd want to do life with. So my husband, David.
What never fails to make you smile?
Oh, my dogs, my kids, being out in nature. I love the lake. I love the woods. I love all the crazy birds and paying attention to wildlife, paying attention to my little pit bulls and my Rottweiler who are all rescues and all needy and funny and they all have their own personality. Yeah, I laugh every day at those guys and just the beauty of birds, like watching the birds and the squirrels, watching the squirrels mess with my dogs is hilarious. So, yeah, I wake up laughing at those dogs almost every day.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Science. Science was my favorite, but I did love English too. I loved um, I loved everything but math, to be honest.
I
I
can
love
see
to
that.
read.
I can see
I
you
love,
liking science.
yeah,
No
I
cap.
love science. Yeah, yeah. I loved finding out things. It was always weird in biology. They always skipped the reproduction chapter back in my day. And it was like going to church when they always skipped Revelations. Well, we're not even going to talk about that because that's some crazy shit. And then when I finally got a preacher that talked about Revelations, man, I never missed that whole unit that we studied. I wanted to know what he thought about it. And that was the way I was with reproduction. And then when I went to Oklahoma State University, my English teacher was, um, oh gosh, I can't remember her name right now, but she helped write Dr. Lukey, Mary Jane Lukey, and she helped write the ERA amendment. And, Title IX had just happened. Like when I was growing up, all those things, Roe versus Wade had just happened in 1973. I graduated high school
Did you say
75.
Mary Jane
Mary
Lukey?
Mary Jane Lukey, Luecke was her name, and she was teaching at Oklahoma State in honors English, and she had us. Our book was Our Bodies Ourselves, which was really like controversial back then because it was telling women to check out their own bodies, and I mean what's crazy was that was all like just women looking at their own anatomy was groundbreaking. They wanted to ban those books. Like, I think they even talked a little bit about lesbians. Like it was just like crazy stuff for that day. And Dr. Mary Jane Lukey, she was there leading the call. I think I wrote a paper for her called one about women in sports and Title IX, what that did for women, and then I wrote one about menstruation and how, over so many centuries, like, they talk the red tents talked about in the Bible, and that's where the women went whenever they would menstruate, because we were all in tribes back then, right? And women, even on basketball teams, we'd all start to menstruate at the same time. Like,
Right.
it's just something that happens in families and close knit groups. And so the men thought like the women were possessed, so they were glad to get rid of them. And the women back then had to walk like 20 steps behind men, like they didn't have a
What do you
voice.
know that bleeds 5 days and doesn't die? A woman.
A woman.
God made a beautiful creation.
That's right, and we do it again and again and again and again.
Hey, the last question. We're gonna sum up. We're gonna sum up the meeting. Not to cut you off, Miss Terry. You know I love you, but the last question is: do you pee in the shower, or do you get out the shower and pee in the toilet?
Well, if I was in the shower, I would pee in the shower, but I'm a bath taker because I always take my bath soak with me. And if I'm going to pee, I don't pee in the tub, but I would pee in the shower. Yeah, I'm not going to lie about that.
I agree with you on that one for sure. Pee in the shower. Well, you've just been tuned in to Smoke Dog
Yeah.
TV. This another episode of Chopping It Up. We just had a special guest, Miss Terry Leek. You know what I'm saying? You want to plug in your business one more time? Want to tell them your website and how to get your product one more time
Yeah.
before we log off?
Yeah. So if you go to passionbox.com, it's Savage Passion Box. We're in about maybe 120 dispensaries right now, and we have a map to all those dispensaries on our website. So just type in Savage Passion Box, and you'll find us, and hopefully we can help increase everybody's connection.
For sure, for sure. I appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for your time. Keep in touch. Let's build a friendship. Let's build a network. And you know what I'm saying? Let's just keep this thing going. Smoke
Absolutely,
Dog TV.
anytime.
Can you shout out your website?
Let's think I lost you there. Don't have any audio. Oh,
Just say like, I'm Terry Leek, and you just tuned in to chopping it up on Smoke Dog TV, and then I'm gonna log it out.
hey, I'm Terry Leek. I'm Terry Leek, and you just tuned in to I'm Chopping It Up at Smoke Dog TV. Sorry. Let me do that again.
Exactly. You good. You did
Uh,
good. We ain't gonna
all
edit
right.
that out. We're gonna leave it just like that. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Peace.
All right. Thank you so much.